Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a great show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest developments in the case of Carlee Russell, the young Alabama woman that had created this whole hoax around her abduction. She has been charged by the Hoover Police Department. I'm going to share with you what the chief of the Hoover Police Department had to say about her case. Also, let's talk about holding big pharma accountable. We're going to be checking in with Mr. Antonio Chacha about how pharmacy benefits managers need to be held accountable for their upcharge on prescription prices and the impact that it has on your pockets. We'll talk about that. Later on, we're going to get a conversation about the scholarship flood. I'm going to be checking in with our very own Corinna Denise to talk about how folks are connecting students to opportunities with the scholarship flood and so much more. Stay with us. We got a lot to talk about in today's edition of The Culture, right here, only here on the Black Star Network. It's Friday. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, it is officially Friday. There we go. That's what we needed. It is a Friday, folks, and welcome. We starting the show off like this already. All right, King Keenan, I got you. Feel that? That's Friday, folks. Look, we got a lot to talk about today. I want you to join us in the conversation, and you can do so by jumping in on our YouTube page. Just go under Roland Martin on YouTube, and you can just click on the link for The Culture on the Black Star Network, and then jump into the chat room because that's where our crew is. That's right. This is your opportunity to be a part of the conversations that we have. So big shout out to all my culture crew that's checking in right now. Pretty Brown, Mimi 726. I got you, Mimi. Good to see you. Happy Friday. Robin Welch, happy Friday. McCall Spicer, happy Friday. Cindy D. See, the ladies always check in early. Ladies is like, let's go. Let's do this. Let's make this thing happen. Cindy D. Thank you so much. And big shout out to one of our newest members for the Bring the Funk fan club, Mr. Julius Williams Jr. Let's give him a little something. There we go. He shows his support for Black Star Network, for the culture, and Brother Roland Martin and all of the programmers that we have here. So Julius, thank you so much, sir, for your support, and welcome to the culture. And I hope, Julius, we get to hear from you as we have these conversations. Folks, I want you to do the same. Again, we are streaming right now on YouTube. Just go under Roland Martin's name. You can be a part of the conversation. Jump in the chat as one of our culture crew members for the day. But that's not the only place you can find us. You can check us out on blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, and you can also find us at Amazon News if you have a Roku TV, where you're streaming live there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was going to add an extra days. I was going to be like 24 hours, 24 days a week, 7 hours a day. No. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we are also streaming on Facebook as well. So there are many ways for you to tune in and be a part of the conversation. Okay, folks, it is Friday, so let's jump right into the conversation. First and foremost, we got to keep up to date on this case. I think this is going to be the last major development to the case of Carlee Russell, you know, the young Black woman who from Alabama, who created that whole hoax that she was kidnapped and abducted and saw a baby on the side of the road. Well, folks, it is official that the Hoover Police Department has decided to move forward in charging the woman with a number of charges, Class A misdemeanors, folks, just Class A misdemeanors, but she has been charged. And this is coming from the chief of police of Hoover Police Department, Chief Nick Durzis, who's been the face of this whole investigation from the start. This is what Chief Durzis said in a quote about this latest development here. Take a look at this, folks. He said that her decisions, looking at the second part of this, her decisions that night created panic and alarm for the citizens of our city and even across the nation as the concern grew that a kidnapper was on the loose using a small child as bait. So she, like I mentioned, folks, she has been charged with Class A misdemeanors, and she has caused panic. And according to the report, she pretty much submitted to all of this. She didn't, give up a fight or anything like that, but she definitely has been charged. And of course, we know that she made up the whole story about her being abducted, seeing a child on the side of the road. It was just crazy. Now, since she has been charged with Class A misdemeanors, that each carry up to, she's been charged with false reporting to law enforcement authorities and falsely reporting an incident, both Class A misdemeanors that each carry up to a year in jail and a $6,000 fine if she is convicted. So she turned herself in today and was released from jail after posting bond, according to the police chief. Each charge will carry a $1,000 bond on this situation. So the police said they still don't have any idea where she was during those 49 hours she was missing, while multiple law enforcement agencies launched a massive search for her. According to the chief, he said, quote, "I know many are shocked and appalled that Ms. Russell is only being charged with 2 misdemeanors. I too shared the same frustration." But he said that current law only allows her to be charged with misdemeanors. And he said he would contact state legislators and urge them to amend the law to add stiffer consequences when somebody falsely reports kidnapping or other violent crimes. Wow. So y'all want to know how big this situation is? It may actually change the law, folks. Woo. Woo. Give me your take on this, crew. Let me know your thoughts on this. I know many of you were saying that she should be held accountable. That's happening. Now it looks like this case may be become a new precedent, a new standard for kidnapping in the state of Alabama. And I want to get your take on this. Is this something that any of us foresee, if he's going to lobby for state legislators to take this case to the next level and prosecute people even stiffer penalties if they pull another stunt like this? I would love to get your take on this, folks. So join me in the chat very quickly. You can post your thoughts on our YouTube chat as we're streaming live right there, again, under Roland Martin's YouTube page, and would love to hear this. But stiffer penalties, she's become the standard. This is not what we wanted for Black women. I'm going to say that, folks. This is not what we wanted for Black women. Even when we all kind of said, okay, the story seems sketchy, she should be held accountable. A lot of people were worried about her. I get it. But now, when you have the police chief talking about lobbying state legislators to create stiffer penalties and laws against those who are falsely reporting, not mad. I don't think it's crazy that the chief is going there, because there were a lot of manpower that was put behind in this investigation. And as he said, there were other agencies across the country and probably in nearby areas of other states that were looking for her. So I'm not thinking that's illogical. It's just, it's sad that it had to be the case of a Black woman who would set such a precedent. And so, I don't know. All right, crew, let me hear from you. Post your comments in our YouTube page. Okay, who we got here? Lorenzo Gonzalez. Good to hear from you, Lorenzo. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the crew. You said she's earned this, and unfortunately, they're going to make an example of her. How about that, Lorenzo? I can't dispute that, bro. I can't dispute that at all. So, Lorenzo, I think you make a great point. Thank you so much. Love to love ya. You said, don't they already not care as much when a Black person goes missing? Now what, after she pulled that hoax? Shaking my head. Absolutely. Absolutely. Pretty Brown Mimi, you said, I wonder if she would have I wonder if she would have been a white woman with the shirt had said the same thing. No. Did that ever happen in any cases of the Karens? Y'all know the Karens, where they, has that ever happened? And crew, tell me, I haven't heard that before. But here's the thing, again, I don't think it's completely illogical. And I don't think it's I think the chief was pissed off from the very beginning. Even when they had that first press conference, I think some of us already mentioned it. The chief didn't believe it. He just presented the facts, and even the way he was presenting the facts, he's like, no, she's lying. She's lying, right? So I think you're bringing up an excellent point there, Mimi, that would this happen if she was a white woman? Because I haven't heard any cases of any white women who have called police and falsely accusing black men of doing something that as a result of that, they're going to change the law. I haven't heard anything like that. Now, I know that some of those women have actually been charged with, filing a false report or making a false claim. But to change the law, great question. Great point, Miriam. Great point. Cindy D, my sister, you said, I hate that she's a black woman. Now that they won't be too quick to check on us. We already don't get checked the way other women do. See, this is why I love y'all, crew, because y'all bringing up excellent points. I hear you. I hear you. Yes. Yes. That's the, especially in the South. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, Cindy, you're right. I think you wanted something there, Cindy. Marcel Mack, you said if I was a worldwide web search and outcry on the internet, if it was a worldwide search and outcry on the internet, it was among black folks and black Twitter and other black spaces. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Thank you, Marcel. Neil C checking in. A lot of good new culture crew members are checking in. Neil, you said, to be fair, we don't know if something like this has ever happened in Hoover, Alabama before, so Chief probably would have the same reaction. And that could have, like I said, it's not crazy because the Chief probably had his whole team. They probably have a very small police department down there in Hoover, Alabama. They're getting all this national attention. They probably were under scrutiny. He was probably making sure he crossed all of his T's and dotted all of his I's in this whole situation. And then, use all this manpower to try to get this black woman, and then this happens. I think you're right, Neil. I think you're right. Kimberly Bailey, you checked in and said, unfortunate, I have family close to where she claims it happened who are on edge. She needs consequences, not sure what, and counseling. Absolutely. I mean, look, she's going to be she's got these misdemeanor charges. I think the biggest consequence that's going to come from this, Kimberly, is the fact that everybody knows her story now. She stole from her job. So how many jobs are going to hire you when you steal from your previous job, right? And it's not like something that nobody knows. This is national news. So all they got to do is just put your name in there, Carlee Russell, and next thing you know, boom. You even said, my name is Calethea Russell. That's what's her first name, right? And everybody's going to know. Everybody is going to know. Kimberly, thank you so much for checking it. Erica Burley, you said, I understand she created this hoax, but I don't think she should be the poster child and get stiff penalties. She should be fined and maybe probation, but change the law is absurd. That's the time we're living in. That's the time we're living in. And I think that, to your point, Erica, I think that we, as black folks, we have to stop thinking that we are on the same playing field as everybody else. Folks, let's get into our heads. When we do anything that is wrong, or when we do anything, we're going to be scrutinized, ostracized, and the double standard is going to kick in. We just got to accept that. People are like, well, why is it that black folks, we always get because there's a double standard. Because there's white supremacy, there's racism, there's systemic oppression and racism. Like, these things exist, folks. How many incidents do we have to have for order for us to get to the point that double standards are going to be applied when it comes to black folks? It's going to be applied. Now, once we really, I'm talking about really embrace the reality. This is not like crazy talk. This is like, if you are a black man or a black woman and you do certain things, the double standard is going to happen. You cannot compare our situation to other people's situation. You say, well, why are you so sure, Farajii? Because there is a track record of double standards being applied that we don't operate, or we are not dealt with in the same space as everyone else. We have to keep that in mind. Everybody else knows this. They're prepared for it. They recognize it. It's we who always seem confused. And why? And scratching our heads. I don't understand. It doesn't mean it's fair. It doesn't mean it's right. It just simply means it exists. And we have to deal with reality. This is the current reality of where we are in this country, the double standard. I appreciate you, Erica, for bringing that up. Let me see who else is here. Lana, you said that sheriff was racist as hell. I told y'all that the other day his energy was all off. Farajii, there has been white women cases. 2 were later charged and got community service. Lana, my sister, the double standard exists. That's all we gotta say. I get it. We can talk about 1,000 white women. We just talked about earlier this week the story of Emmett Till. Like, white women lie, unfortunately, on black men and on black women. And guess what? They get slaps on the wrist. That's not our reality. Let's stop acting as if that's our reality, folks. We just got to be more mindful, more strategic. And I'm sorry, it's hard for a hard pill for us to carry that burden, but that's the reality of things, folks. We got to work in the space of reality. I'm tired of working in the space of I wish it wasn't, or some fantasy space. We got to work in the space of reality. Oh man, oh man. All right, folks, we got to take it. It sucks. It really does. And hopefully this situation will find some resolution. More importantly, Carlee Russell gets the help that she needs. Continue to put her family in for the prayers and support. And more importantly, folks, if the police chief moves forward on this, just know a double standard exists in America for black folks more so than any other folks. And we have to work from a space of reality and not fantasy. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about big pharmaceuticals. How big pharma has continued to be a real thorn in the side of most Americans because of high prescription prices. But really behind it, who's really behind it? Well, there's a group of people called pharmaceutical benefits managers, who are the ones that really sets the tone and the price for a lot of these prescription drugs. And today we're talking a little bit about how to hold them accountable as drug prices continue to rise in the country. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. All right, I want to switch gears as we want to talk about healthcare in this country, more specifically about prescription drugs and how even in this day and time, even after COVID-19, a major global pandemic that put the world on hold for at least a year and a half, we're back in business, and guess what, folks? That has shown to be the case, especially in the healthcare and pharmaceuticals industry, as drug prices, prescription prices for various drugs and other things that are needed for health and well-being continues to increase, even after a major public health crisis. Now, the question is, well, why do these things continue to happen? Well, there's a group of individuals who are called pharmaceutical benefits managers. These are people who work within the industry, and they have a real influence on the price and cost of prescription drugs. Here to talk to us a little bit about the role of PBMs, as they're known, is Mr. Antonio Chacha, who serves as the president of 3 Axis Advisors, to talk to us about this latest effort to try to hold big pharma and PBMs accountable for what we're seeing in prescription drug prices. So, Antonio, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Farajii. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about this idea of PBMs, because I don't think the American people really know the folks that are responsible behind the scenes. When we hear talk of prescription drug prices going up, when we hear talk about the cost of overall healthcare in this country, we have this conversation, but the conversation it still seems to be something very external, not knowing that there are people behind the scenes. There are people who work in this industry who are dictating and setting the agenda, whether it's the financial agenda or the public health agenda. So talk to us about, what is a PBM?
So in the old days, before anybody had medicines covered by their health insurance companies, in the old days, people would walk into their local pharmacy and they would pay out of their own wallets for those medicines. While that didn't serve all people equitably, what it did do is our wallets and our purses ultimately work to hold prices at the pharmacy counter somewhat accountable, much like, even though there might be expensive products at the grocery store, in general, publicly traded companies who are selling groceries can't get away with charging thousands of dollars for a gallon of milk. However, something that costs the same as a gallon of milk in the drug space will be charged at a rate that is thousands of dollars. And so fast forward the tape, as we started paying for medicines less and less out of our own wallets and purses, over time, we looked to health insurance companies and these intermediaries known as pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, to help facilitate the transaction on our behalf as consumers and on behalf of government programs or employers that are covering those medicines on our behalf. Well, that shift resulted in not just a culture change around how we pay for medicines, but it also changed the incentives. Rather than pharmacies and drug manufacturers pricing their drugs to sell them as is. Instead, they started setting the prices to meet the demands and incentives of the health insurance companies and those intermediary PBMs. And without boring your audience to death, the idea here is that PBMs don't actually want lower prices of medicines. What PBMs do today is they determine which drugs will be covered under your Medicaid plan, your Medicare plan, or your employer's plan. And they also determine which pharmacies you can go to and how much you will be charged for those medicines. That power has given them a tremendous influence over which medicines we ultimately are taking and how much we're going to pay for them. And unsurprisingly, it becomes a lot of money that is being passed under the table in exchange for us to take those medicines. So we have a dysfunctional system where large drug manufacturers are selling those drugs to large health insurance companies and PBMs, and ultimately their needs are being met, but we are the passengers in that vehicle today.
Wow. So it's a lot I want to kind of dive into. I want to take another pause, but Antonio, when we come back, I want us to kind of look at, getting more details about this, because if PBMs are the ones that are setting the prices or at least influencing, which drugs are that insurance companies should cover and all of those things, these are the real culprits of what we're seeing in America. And I want to kind of get an understanding as to why the American people just don't know about this. Why the American people feel like, we just have to kind of settle with the way policies are and have a conversation about pushing back on what we see coming from the work of PBMs. Folks, I want you to join us in the conversation. Make sure you post your comments on our YouTube chat under Roland Martin as we have this discussion. And stay tuned. A lot more as we talk about holding Big Pharma accountable here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We have been talking to Mr. Antonio Chacha of 3 Axis, who is the founder and president of 3 Axis Advisors, as we talk about pharmacy benefit managers, individuals and companies, rather, that are responsible for what we're seeing coming out on prescription drug prices in this country. And considering the cost of prescription drugs and the cost of healthcare, there needs to be some accountability and some oversight. And so it has been some efforts to try to rein in pharmacy benefit managers to make sure that they don't fleece the American people all in the name of health and wellness. Antonio, again, I appreciate you, man, for taking time out your schedule to be with us to talk about this. I want to kind of hone in on a couple of things. Again, this might still be very abstract to some of our watchers. So when we say pharmacy benefit managers, are these companies or are these individuals? What are we saying here?
So if you haven't fallen asleep at just the phrase pharmacy benefit manager, yes, they are companies.
And which companies are we talking about here, Antonio?
So we're talking about CVS Health, Express Scripts, and Optum RX. Those 3 PBMs are Fortune 15 companies, and they are the largest PBMs by market share. They make about 85% of all pharmacy claims transactions today.
Whoa, 3 companies make up 85% of the pharmacy claim transactions?
That is correct. PBMs were hired years ago to control prescription drug costs on behalf of Americans, but they actually got to the point where they grew larger than the drug manufacturers and pharmacy companies that they were hired to control. By no means are they the sole villain in the prescription drug supply chain, but understand if the PBM is hired to make drug prices low, well, then looking at the receipts, they have failed miserably. And it begs the question as to why. Back in the 1980s, the federal government signed federal anti-kickback laws that disallowed and prohibited kickbacks from occurring in marketplaces because it distorted prices and it muted the impact of traditional forms of competition. It was basically harmful to consumers. But in the 90s, drug manufacturers, PBMs, and insurance companies got an exemption to that statute that allowed for pay to play to reign supreme in the drug channel. What that allowed for is drug makers to raise their prices with no accountability whatsoever, and enabled them to give kickbacks to PBMs in exchange for covering and preferring the medicines that the drug makers made. So rather than working as friction or as a counterbalance, PBMs actually became in on the take. That's when the system started to spiral out of control.
So what type of accountability measures are currently in place to kind of to address this, Antonio? I mean, in terms of laws and other policies.
Historically speaking, PBMs are still relatively new in terms of legal accountability. Look, most people couldn't spell PBM 5 years ago, but today they are the centerpiece of a lot of the federal discussions around drug pricing reform. Every major committee of jurisdiction in the U.S. Senate and in the House of Representatives now is performing their proverbial colonoscopy of the industry and trying to see ways to better align the marketplace so that PBMs can return to their original intent as the firefighters of drug pricing rather than the arsonists. Outside of congressional measures, states across the country have been investigating, suing, and passing laws in ways that try to ensure that the discounts that are negotiated by PBMs ultimately are passed through to patients so that they benefit rather than the money going to corporate profits. The last thing I'll mention are federal attempts at the Federal Trade Commission, which is undergoing an investigation of PBM practices, ultimately so it could better inform policy and possibly result in enforcement. The Federal Trade Commission has allowed a lot of mergers and acquisitions over the years across the prescription drug supply chain, but definitely in the PBM space. And the new administration at the FTC is starting to have a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking of what previous installments of the FTC has yielded.
There has, according to the latest report, there's a new national survey that speaks about this. That comes from the PBM Accountability Project. And in that national survey, it shares that there is a overwhelming number of Americans who are looking to support policies that help regulate these health insurance, what they call health insurance middlemen, these PBMs, and requiring them to provide more value and help and lower drug costs. We do know that individuals such as Senator Bernie Sanders and Bill Cassidy have been trying to do some oversight on this. But even how far has that effort gone from those two senators, and even among the Republicans, the GOP? Has this shown that there is some progress that's being made?
Without question, there's a substantial amount of progress. I mean, just the past week, the Senate Finance Committee passed a very substantial package of policies that was bipartisan. It was actually voted out of committee 26-1. We always joke, yeah, there's no such thing as bipartisanship. Well, yeah, we see a lot of bipartisanship, but usually it's in fragments. Very rarely do you see almost complete alignment across party lines. And that's what we're seeing in these more substantive packages that are targeted at PBMs. Look, it's important to understand that drug manufacturers want to charge as much as they can get away with. They sell drugs to wholesalers. They want to charge as much as they could get away with. And they sell drugs to pharmacies. They want to charge as much as they could get away with. The entire reason that PBMs were invited to the party was to push back and to work on our behalf as consumers and employers and government programs to try and act as a balancing act. But once PBMs started to get conflicted, when they started getting paid by drug manufacturers, when PBMs started opening their own pharmacies and mail order pharmacies and specialty pharmacies, the more that they started being in on the take, the more that they exacerbated American drug pricing problems. So a lot of the current policies that are targeting PBMs and singling them out, arguably, is to try to ensure that instead of being paid by drug manufacturers, they're acting as friction against them. Rather than determining which drugs we're going to take based upon which biggest kickbacks they get, they're trying to put PBMs in the position to truly try to prefer the drugs that work best for us as folks who need them.
Antonio, sound like a whole racket, a street racket.
Without
I'm serious, man. Look, hey man, look, you came on this show, and I'm gonna just let you know my personal politics now, man. Like I'm looking at, and some of the times, and I know this is not the most sexiest of stories, right? People like, okay, you know what I mean? But this is one of those things where you at least need to be aware of the racket of the game, right? Because so many of us, we're putting money into different places, right? And I think a big part of it, as we take our next, before we take our next pause, I just want to get this out. A big part of it is we still have hope and belief that anything with the term American on it is for our benefit. And it's so sad, Antonio. It is so sad that as many sick people that there are in this country, that as many people who are strapped financially because of the pandemic and other factors. I live in Los Angeles. Many people that need mental health services because and find themselves on the street. You have situations like this where corporations and companies and individuals are reaping rich off of the sickness of people, right? Whether you're black or white, Asian, Latino, doesn't matter. That just reaping rich. Like the sicker we get as a country, as a people, the richer some folks get. And it's absolutely disgusting, to say the least, to see that this is our quote unquote healthcare system. And it's like I said, it's horrific because people need prescription drugs, right? Like some things, yes, I know they're holistic healers. That's a different conversation. But there are some things that you need access for. You're thinking about elderly. You're thinking about people with chronic conditions. Americans are unhealthy right now. And then we're not only are we unhealthy physically, but financially. And then we got to go through this garbage with PBMs. Got 30 seconds before we take our next pause on this, Antonio. What's your take?
Yeah, the key here is that, look, everybody wants to make more money off of other people's ills, right? In healthcare, you have somewhat of a captive consumer. We need drugs to stay alive and to ultimately be better. So obviously, there's a lot of folks who seek to benefit from that. What we need is a system of transparency and accountability to ensure that we're ultimately maximizing the value of the dollars that are invested and ensuring that everybody is taken care of along the way. We come back, we talk a little bit more about the actual tangible impact that I think will be a little bit better and a little bit easier to digest on how PBMs might distort the marketplace for patients.
Absolutely. We're going to do that. Tia Z, you checked in, Tia. You said, imagine how many politicians are getting huge bribes, quote unquote, donations from these thugs. Absolutely. Huge bribes. Pauline, thank you so much, Tia. Pauline, you checked in and said, I have never seen so many commercials on TV peddling drugs. Right. They're not peddling wellness. They're not telling you to take a walk. They're telling you to take a pill. You don't like my music. You said PBM sound like another unnecessary hand in the cookie jar. You also posted, bro, that sick and injured people make great consumers because they have no choice. And when we come back very quickly, Antonio, want to get your take because we're talking to Black America. We're talking to people who have historically been disenfranchised and marginalized by the health insurance industry. So I want to get your take on how do Black communities, how do the Latino communities, how do marginalized communities find their way and get a footing over this madness? Folks, stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Antonio Chacha of three, making sure I'm saying this, Antonio, 3 Axis Advisors. There we go. As we're talking about the prescription drug prices and more importantly, specifically about pharmacy benefit managers, individuals and companies rather, that are responsible for dictating the financial agenda, setting the prices for prescription drugs in this country. And Antonio Chacha, Antonio, you've been here to just let us know how the game works. And it is, I said it, it's a racket. It is a street racket after all. And the sad part about it is on the backs of sick Americans who really need that support. Very quickly, we're talking to Black folks all across this country, Antonio, but what's your take on that? For those who have, for those communities that have been marginalized and victimized by the healthcare industry, how do we find some sense of power to get back at this situation?
I want to give you 2 specific examples that I think that your audience would be very, very interested in terms of how these things actually result in real harm, especially to disenfranchised communities. You have popular medicines like insulin, right? and there are three main manufacturers of insulin in the marketplace. So, well, certainly there could be more competition. For the sake of this discussion, there is competition. And what we know about competition is that traditionally, when aligned properly, competition should increase quality and lower prices. Now, obviously, that doesn't always happen, but in the insulin space, it really demonstrates how disconnected the problem can become. Drug manufacturers will typically charge hundreds of dollars for a single vial of insulin, but thanks to the laws and exemptions that I mentioned earlier, these exemptions to the federal anti-kickback statute, drug manufacturers get shaken down by PBMs for big money in exchange for preferring one insulin brand over another. So while drug manufacturers are charging hundreds of dollars, they're actually only netting about $30, $40 on every vial of insulin. One could argue that's still too much, but we're talking about hundreds of dollars of gap between the list price and how much the drug makers take in. The question then is, where is the rest of the money? What happens is when PBMs receive this compensation from drug manufacturers, they have the ability to choose what to charge patients when they actually go get that insulin at the pharmacy counter. So often we see insulin patients having to pay hundreds of dollars at the pharmacy counter, while the discounts that are harvested on that transaction are flowed to the PBM and the health insurance company and not shared with the patient at the point of sale. So this disconnect between list prices and real prices ultimately results in harm, especially to those patients that have underinsurance or poor insurance, which many people that are in underserved communities ultimately have. So they disproportionately pay the full freight of the list price while everyone else is getting the benefit of the kickbacks. The other problem in the PBM marketplace is that a lot of PBMs are operating in Medicaid programs. Obviously, those who are the poorest and the most underserved in every state across the country rely on Medicaid for their benefits and access to medicines. In my home state of Ohio, we helped state officials uncover $245 million that PBMs were taking out of the Medicaid program. What they were doing is they were underpaying pharmacies that were serving Medicaid beneficiaries and then overcharging the state and pocketing the difference. The real impact of that scheme resulted in pharmacies that were serving underserved areas to be disproportionately harmed. So we saw pharmacies across the state of Ohio closing, but they weren't closing in wealthy, affluent areas. They were closing in the most underserved parts of the state of Ohio. This is how these schemes and the ways that middlemen can make money underneath the table can result in real harm to patients who are already having to pick up a disproportionate share of the burden of our healthcare system.
Dang. Antonio, dang. It's crazy. This is crazy. Folks are checking in on this, Antonio. We got a couple of moments left with you, and I appreciate you for putting this out there. So it sounds like for Black Americans, you're talking about Latino Americans. It sounds like for those communities, there needs to be some organized action around this. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah, without question. And look, pharmacy is not the only space where underserved communities can be disenfranchised, right? We know that state budgets across the country, the easy thing to do is cut access to Medicaid benefits. That isn't just true in pharmacy, it's true in all segments of healthcare. Ultimately, for those who rely on those benefits, they need to ensure that there's a degree of normalization of access from commercial availability of healthcare and also Medicaid. In the Medicaid context, when PBMs are able to take advantage of Medicaid programs, that results in precious resources being taken from the programs that are meant to serve the most disenfranchised. So from an activism perspective, I would counsel folks to ensure that there are healthy degrees of transparency and accountability into how those dollars are being invested to ensure that there isn't disproportionate harm to those underserved constituencies.
Yeah.
Or if there's going to be a system of kickbacks, and I would argue there should not be a system of kickbacks, if there is going to be one, patients need to ensure that they are the recipients of the dollars that are being leveraged using those patients, right? The PBM has no power without the power we have granted them as individuals under their benefits programs. So we need to demand that those discounts ultimately are shared rather than being pocketed and sent to Wall Street.
Absolutely. We got about 30 seconds left on this, Antonio. What's the best place that folks can learn more information, get more resources about this? I do want to advise that folks, you can check out more if you want to learn more about this system through the PBM Accountability Project at pbmaccountability.org, pbmaccountability.org. This is the place, this is the nonprofit organization that's trying to hold big pharma and PBMs accountable for this. They're the one that put out the national survey about where Americans stand on this issue. So again, PBM, which stands for Pharmacy Benefit Managers, pbmaccountability.org. Any other resource that you like to offer, Antonio?
Yeah, I have my own nonprofit organization called 46 Brooklyn Research, where if you want to become a drug pricing nerd, I do not recommend it, but in case you want to learn this stuff, we try to give all this information away for free. We don't make you sign up or give your info or anything like that. We try to give data away and understanding away, because what I've learned in my time in this space is that with mystery comes margin. The more complex the drug transaction is, the more opportunity there is for everybody, not just PBMs, to take advantage of us as consumers. I believe that through simplifying the drug transaction, we all stand to better reshape the marketplace in a way that's more friendly to consumers and the employers and government programs paying for those benefits.
Absolutely. Antonio Chacha, who is the president of 3 Axis Advisors, we appreciate you for coming on to the program to talk to us a little bit about this. And people are checking in on our YouTube page saying, Antonio, very informative segment. Folks are saying, look, we didn't hear about this, so you don't like my music. You said this is real news, so I appreciate that. But this is the conversation that we need to have, that we should be having, especially when it comes to healthcare and prescription prices. So again, thank you so much for your time, Antonio. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Farajii. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about connecting students to opportunities. I got my sister, Corinna Denise, checking in as she does every Friday, along with our very special guest, who is going to give us some insight about how do we connect students to opportunities. So we're going to be featuring the scholarship plug here on the show in a few moments. So stay tuned. That conversation about education, connection, opportunity, and more is coming up right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Dynamic first hour. Make sure you do your part to be a part of Team Replay. Check out the first hour as we talked about the latest in the Carlee Russell situation, that story. And also, we just had a very informative conversation with Antonio Chacha of 3 Axis Advisors to talk about prescription drug prices and pharmacy benefits managers and the whole racket that we call our healthcare system. So much to cover, but make sure you definitely check us out on Black Star Network for the replay. Also, we are tuning live. We are streaming live on Amazon News 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, you can see us also on the replay on our Facebook page and on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search under Roland Martin and click on the link for that, and you can see all of our current shows, past shows as well. Also, just letting you know, folks, that we have been streaming the National Urban League's conference about the state of Black America, and there are so many other streams that we have going on. So again, if you haven't had a chance to check us out at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, there's a lot of great streams that are happening there. So a lot of Black excellence is happening. All right, folks, let's talk about education, connecting students to opportunities. This is the topic for our next segment as we have the conversation with Culture Crew member Corinna Denise. And she has a very special guest to talk to us about what does that mean? How do we get students to a place where they feel supported and with the resources that they need? So Corinna, welcome to the show again. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. How are you this afternoon?
Peace, Farajii. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. All right, Corinna. All right, so I see you got this dynamic sister joining us as well. Look at
Yes. So
Talk to him.
This is Ms. Shedley Cassius-Parther, the Chief Architect, Visionary Officer of the Scholarship Plug. So I'm so excited that she's here joining us today. As you guys know, I have mentioned Scholarship Plug previously, and now today you get to hear from the curator herself.
Come on, there we go right there. Shedley, thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture. Welcome to the Black Star Network. How are you this afternoon?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh. Shout out to all the Black Star Network audience and the Culture audience. Thank you for having me.
I love it. I'm feeling the passion. It's Friday, so I'm all good with the love and passion over here. That's what's up.
Awesome.
Shedley, let's talk a little bit first about the work that you're doing. You founded the Scholarship Plug. What exactly is that? What kind of service do you provide here?
Well, we've created a safe space where we are. I'm here actually right now in our computer lab where students have a safe place to come ask questions about college, ask questions about scholarships, win scholarships. So I am a school counselor. I did 13 years plus in education at a public high school. I am a product of the ratios that are like 1 to 1,500. So I pretty much took a piece of my career that I enjoyed the most, which was awarding scholarships and helping students win scholarships, and took it and kind of created a business out of it. So now, fast forward today, and as a matter of fact, I left out a piece. the students called me the scholarship plug. So as I'm doing presentations and I'm getting requests to come speak to students, and students are like, oh, she's the plug. She's the plug. You are the scholarship plug. So I said, okay, I just took it. And here we go, the scholarship plug. So now I branded it, and someone created a logo for me. So it became a whole big deal. I have a book called I literally took what is in my brain, Steps to Success, to create a book for students to actually believe and have the blueprint to apply for scholarships and win. So that's how we arrived to the Scholarship Plug, being today a nonprofit organization that creates a safe space for students to feel confident about going to college, about applying for scholarships, having the belief that they can win. And we have cheerleaders as your team for as long as you'll have us. So that's what we do. That's what we want to spread. Hope is the belief that something good is going to happen. Too many of our students do not believe that college is important or college is for them. You know, Farajii, I don't know about you. I know you hear it all the time. College is not for me. You know, it just drives me crazy. There's over 3,000. I'm not even quoting that properly. There's like 5,000 colleges across the country and abroad. There's one for you. Whether you go to technical school, where you go learn a trade, even if you want to learn business and it's a course, like there's a fit for everyone, you know? So that's where we are today. We're on a mission to bring back the hope to continue your education, because there are statistical data. There is data that actually proves that, you know, those that do not continue, and I'm not saying that percentage of students that, you know, make it and don't, you know, make millions after not continuing their education. I'm talking about the majority, okay? That do not continue their education. They are, there's a higher chance of you getting paid less, not voting, being I can't even say the word. You're more prone to relying on government funding, okay? So there's a lot of things that affect the community. They say why? It's because it impacts everyone. Let's continue to encourage, motivate our students to continue. Farajii, I go to a classroom now, and it used to be where I go, how many of you want to go to college? Everybody puts their hands up. Now it's like maybe a third. It's getting better, but maybe a third. And I understand why, right? It's about, you know, the student loans, financial burdens, barriers, everything is going on. Some are even suffering from pandemic related issues. Okay?
Right.
There's so much going on that college or continuing your education is no longer the priority. So the Scholarship Plug wants to kind of shift it back by educating you on how to be financially free while going to college. Okay.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Shelly, because I think that what you're bringing to the conversation is so important, and I think that it speaks volumes about where we are. Corinna and I always have these conversations about the state of education, and we're finding that education is as much as Black history is being attacked, really education is being devalued. And I think there is an educational revolution that's on the horizon right now, Shetley, because Black students, Black parents, when we look at the curriculum that's being taught in today's school in 2023, it does not fit the evolving culture of students that are coming from all of these different spaces, whether you're talking about single family homes, mixed family homes, same-sex family homes. The values of our culture has changed. So education seems to become more and more antiquated. So I want to get your take on that. Of course, I want to get Corinna's take. We got to take a quick pause, but when we come forward, let's talk about those things and trying to connect students to scholarship opportunities. Folks, look, I want you to join us in the conversation, checking in with the scholarship plug, Shetley Cassius. I'm checking in with Corinna Denise, our culture crew member, who is a college advisor. And I want to hear from you. Join us in the conversation. Post your thoughts on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. And let's talk about how we can connect our students, the young people in our lives and our communities, to help them to see that college is a very real situation. It can happen and so much more. Stay with us. That discussion continues on the other side, right here in The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to PO Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Folks, we have been talking about connecting students to opportunities as we have a very special guest. The scholarship plug is joining us right now, Ms. Shetley Cassius, to give us some insight about how we can make sure that Black students, that young people that are in our homes and our communities, see that that going to college is very possible, the possibility of going to college. We're also joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, our online culture crew member, and who is also a college advisor for this big conversation. So Corinna and Shetley, you know, my thinking is, when we're looking at what's happening within the educational space, our education is currently under attack. And I want to kind of get, Corinna, I want to get your take on this, then Shetley. You know, when we see this, how do we convince students, especially Black students, how do we convince them that, look, even though our, education is under attack, our history is not being taught, you still need to put an effort in, you still need to invest in higher education, you still need to go to college. because in the long run, it's going to work to your benefit. Because of course, as young people, we just see the here and now. We just see the present moment.
Yeah.
But the next generation, they're super smart. They know what's going on. And if they feel like they're not welcome into the classroom, if their identity is not welcome into the classroom, if their politics aren't welcome into the classroom, correct, they're not going to feel excited about being in the classroom.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest barriers are the financial barriers, right? Like a lot of students just don't feel that college is possible or attainable. They're looking at their finances, especially with the pandemic, right? Everyone took a hit in some way, right? So that's really a struggle for students. Is this actually going to be a reality, something that I can afford? You know, they definitely don't want to, take out loans or drown into student debt. But I think too, Farajii, to your point, we have to start literally just throwing these opportunities to the students, right? Getting the information out there. A lot of it is just point blank. They don't know. They're not aware that these opportunities are available to them. So much scholarship money goes unused simply because students don't know about these opportunities to be applying for them. So I think, we need to get in front of that, right? And present these opportunities. Now we have social media, easy access, a click of a button, right? Students are online, they're looking at things, right? That's how the scholarship plug actually gained a lot of its popularity, right? Social media, students are finding us by the hashtag. But, and then you start to see a trend who are actually winning these awards and not having to take out loans and their college dreams become a reality. We also have to promote that to show that this is possible for you too. And yeah, I could only imagine right now, especially being in the classroom, especially here in Florida where we are, there is a lot of discouragement. How is that going to look now where they're changing all this curriculum? How does that tie into that piece of actually going through what's already a very, stressful process can be applying to college? So how do we still get, kids excited about that and for them to see the reality? But, as college counselors, to Shelly's point earlier, yes, it's hard to hear or hard to see not a lot of hands go up when you ask who's going to college, right? And I think a lot of kids probably do want to go, but they don't see it as, is this a reality for me? So it's our responsibility, those of us who have this knowledge, to be sharing it with the community, to let students know, like, it's possible for you. And one of the mottos here at the Scholarship Plug is get paid to go to college, right?
Come on. I wish I wish somebody said that to me when I was going to college.
There's so much money. So loans are going to be offered to you, but you don't have to accept the loans. If you get that extra $1,000, even $500, right? That could be for some books. Sometimes you just need that plane ticket, that train ticket to get home. It's not all about that, the tuition per se. You're going to have other needs. You're going to need to buy things to furnish your dorm, right? And then you just have some extra money in your pocket. And a lot of these awards, Farajii, made payable directly to the student. They're not even sending it to the schools anymore because they don't want a student's financial aid package to be decreased or lessened because they're receiving other gifts. So a lot of these organizations will award these scholarships directly to the student. You deposit it, cash it, and you spend it accordingly. But yeah, I think it's just about getting this information out to our communities, letting students know that this is possible for you. And not just any post-secondary education, I really do think is necessary, even if it's not college, even if it's technical school, learning a trade. There's a career for everyone. But yeah, we got to get our kids excited about education again, especially in spite of what we see was happening, not only in Florida, but across this country with all the changing and rewriting of history and curriculums.
Absolutely. Shelly, I want to get your take on this because as we're talking about connecting students to these college opportunities, we know, of course, from the latest decision from the Supreme Court that, this whole conversation about admissions and affirmative action and student loans, these conversations are like the gray clouds over the future of college students, college education, especially for Black children. How are you navigating the space for that through all of these legal and policy changes? How does that affect the work that you're doing, and how does that affect the next generation from being in colleges?
Well, you know what? That's a very good question, and I'm happy I'm actually proud to respond to that because although, yes, it may take kind of a surface-based toll, but to tell you the truth, a lot of the enrollment indicators, enrollment platforms, application platforms that are connected to the universities, they're not complying to that. They are committed. I'm not speaking for all of them, but those that I have, that we are utilizing to help our students to matriculate to the college that they want to apply or that they want to continue to, they're not on that. They say they send out emails and notifications and are on social media saying, look, despite the recent Supreme Court order, we are committed to the diversity of our students. We are committed. Please don't get it twisted. What they represent does not represent us. We are about equality. So it's about educating our students to let them know that there's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be that hedge of what am I trying to say? There's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be negative people that are going to try to block you to where you want to be. But we are here to support you. We have to support each other. We've gone through worse. So our goal is to get you to understand that financial freedom is the best as a college student. And don't let any Supreme Court, don't let anyone that's negative, anyone, anything stop you because you have the tools. Especially, and I see in the chat here, I don't know if we go to, if you were going to address it.
Yeah, I definitely want to bring up some of the comments. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like some of these students that believe that they cannot go in addition to, those students with IEPs. I tell our students that have a disability, that's your ability to have superpowers. Those are superpowers. Whatever you have, that IEP. So for those of you who don't know what an IEP is with students, a student with disability will most likely have an individual educational plan with their high school. Okay? That is a superpower. And a lot of students don't even want to go to their IEP meetings because they're ashamed or they don't want to be judged I'm like, stop that. Use that. Because in every institution, it is required for them to have an office to support them. Now, some will be better than others, but don't use that as a disadvantage. It's an advantage to accelerate your superpower. So
I love it. I love it, Shedley. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation about connecting students to opportunities. Crew, I want to hear from you. Make sure you post your comments as we're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin's YouTube page. Let's continue the conversation of how we can connect our students to the opportunities to make college a real possibility. Stay with us. The conversation continues up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about scholarships. We've been talking about making sure that our students, the next generation of young people in your household, around the community, understand that they can go to college and it's very, very possible to not just go, but to have a fulfilling experience there. I've been checking in with my sisters, Corinna and Denise, who is a college advisor and one of our great culture crew members. And also we're joined by Ms. Shetley Cassis, who serves as the founder of the Scholarship Plug, where they're providing opportunities and resources for the next generation to matriculate into colleges. And folks, this is a very, very necessary conversation, and many of you are checking in to share your thoughts on this. Janae, thank you so much for hearing from you. You said this is timely. We are going to be looking hard for scholarships as they try to dismantle African-American history in the coming years. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are still opportunities, folks. And here's the big thing that I want us to glean from this discussion. Just because there's an attack on our history in some states doesn't mean that our students, that our young people that are a part of our families should not go to college. Right. We all understand, folks, that this curriculum talk, this banned book talk, okay, that's one thing. But we put ourselves in a more major disservice, and Corinna and Shetley, I know both of you sisters can agree with me. If we're not even having a conversation about making college a possibility, if we're not having a conversation where we're saying, you know what, in spite of all of that, we're going to still produce students of excellence to come out of these major colleges and universities. So, you know, I hope folks don't feel Corinna, I hope folks don't feel like that, you know, they need to kind of give up. Oh, it's not going to make a difference. You know, our students are not going to be taught those things. That's only happening in the state of Florida. There's still many, many states in this country where our history is being taught, where they want us in those colleges. Now, regardless of why they want us, this is the other thing, Shetley and Corinna, and I want to bring you both back into the frame on this. This is the other thing. People say, well, they want to meet a quota. So what? Does that take away from the fact that we need to go to college?
Exactly.
Not at all.
So what? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the pushback, like we're just pawns. Bro, you wake up in America, you are a pawn. I'm sorry. I mean, like, I don't want to sound like dismissive, but I just do, like, okay, like anytime we go into a store, anytime when you're participating in this system, you are a quote unquote, for lack of a better word, you are a pawn, you're a part of the system.
Right.
So I kind of push back on that. Folks, it's like, well, you know, I don't want to be a quota. I just don't want to be a number. No, I understand that, but we still need the opportunity.
Exactly.
We still need the opportunity. Shetley, talk to me on that. Then, Corinna, I want to get your take on it.
And I really want to inspire or talk to, speaking of opportunities, it's all about the conversation in the household. And it's it's even more difficult for students that are first generation, where their parents didn't get the opportunity or don't really have the experience to say, okay, we need to get started 8th grade and selecting your curriculum while you're in high school so that you can prepare yourself. We recently did a panel where our students were all paid to go to school, free opportunity, literally in school getting paid. You understand? You can get paid to go to college. So that conversation, the opportunity, even the idea of the opportunity being present starts at home. Okay, so it's the.
So let me ask you that, and let me ask you that real quick, Shetley. Like when we have those my son is 10 years old, and I already know that I told him, his mother told him, you're going to college. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We're in Los Angeles, so you know he wants to be a filmmaker. So I said, son, you know, you're going to USC. Or Stanford. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're going to college, son. We're not playing these games.
Right.
But for those students who would become first-time college graduates, how do they have the conversation? I have a degree from college. My son's mom has a degree from college. So how do the first time college graduate have that conversation with their parents who may not understand the value of being in that space?
Right. Well, that's where the educators come in.
Right.
You know, that's where the community comes in. That's where the local government comes in, where we provide events where we're sharing information, we're educating the public on the importance or on the opportunities. Scholarship and college planning starts in middle school. You're a 10-year-old, and we have to also be connected with the truth, right? Because this generation, you can't just tell them what to do. You can't just say you're going to college. I mean, I do. I tell my kids you're going to college, but it doesn't really work.
I hear you.
You have to kind of present the benefits and present it in a way where they're experiencing it. So my son is 13 years old. He just received a scholarship in 7th grade. Right? It's
for college?
Yeah, no, well, at that age, middle school, 9th, 10th, you usually either have the organization hold your scholarship for when you graduate, or they give you a check and hope that you save it. So in his case, he received a check and it's in his bank account to save for college. But he's one of those kids that are like, Mom, I don't know if I want to go to college. And I'm like, do you know who your mama is? What do you mean? You cannot not go to college?
Wait a minute, hold on, Shelly. Hold on. So you took it personal.
No, I took it personal, but I have to take it back and say, okay, now I'm gonna position you so that you don't, and hopefully he's probably listening too. But now I'm gonna position you to where you're exposed to be excited about college. It's no longer going to come out of my mouth because I already see where you're going with that. And that's the problem. Like, we have to be able to meet our children and our students where they are and not tell them, you know, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's not going to work in them anymore. It's not the same.
No, I hear you.
These kids are not the same. So
yeah, I hear you.
Exposure events where, I mean, we'll have a college event and have the students that are interested to go to college show up. How is that helping those that don't want to go? You know, so we have to meet them where they will show up and say, hey, by the way, you guys want to get paid? I'll show you how to get paid while going to college. Wouldn't you like to be in school and getting paid to be there? While you're learning and you're acquiring transferable skills so that you could be a stronger employee and possibly an employer in the future. Like, that's how we have to talk to them. Do you want to start a business? Why don't you start it now? You know, like, we have to listen a little bit more, you know, to our students and what they're interested in. And another thing to Farajii that I want to mention is that there's a paralysis going on as far as continuing your education or within the students nowadays. They don't want to go to college, not only for financial reasons, but because they don't know what they want to study.
Right.
So that's why organizations like ours, you know, we can spend a little bit more time because in schools, they don't have the time. Oftentimes it's 1 for 1,500 of them. So they don't have the time to give the advising that they need to give. So we have to start early. Middle school is the time. We have to start early to get them exposure, to get them to have them on college campuses, you know, start saving your money. Okay, you earned this for your birthday. Okay, we need to save $5 for college. You know what I mean?
I get it. I definitely get it. Corinna, what do you say? You are not a victim. You posted college is not for every student. Some students are barely making it out of high school. LOL. I come from a city, Corinna, where the high school graduation is bigger than the college graduation in Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you get through high school in Baltimore, you're damn near having a block party. And I remember seeing it before I left. I remember seeing a couple of high school graduation parties. I'm like, damn, man, it's only high school. High school is not the same high school from the 90s when I graduated, right? Like it's a different high school thing, right? But it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. But then there's not as much hoopla about getting into college or even graduating college in some households. How do we change that part of the culture?
Again, Farajii, I think it's just expanding minds, right? But to You're Not a Victim's point, I do want to emphasize that all the years that Shelley and I in particular have been doing this work, although yes, we would ideally like all of our kids to go to college, we realize that's not the case, right? So a lot of our work has also been pushing post-secondary education, right? What does that mean? Doing something after high school. Whether you're going to a technical school and you're learning a trade, maybe you want to be an automotive mechanic, maybe you want to be, I don't know, a plumber. Like there are schools and different trades and skills where you need to go and get a certain certification, knowledge, actually be trained, as an apprentice to actually have a career in that area. So we're not just solely focused on college, although ideally we would like to see all of our kids go. And to add to that point too, Farajii, technical school, I've seen in my experience, has been a stepping stone for a lot of students to actually then in turn go to college because they saw other opportunities that would be available to them if they decided to further their education. So I think it's just that exposure, showing, to Shelley's point, the benefits. I think a lot of students probably have this narrow view of, oh, I'm just going to college to get a piece of paper, to get some skills so I can get a job. And there's so much more to it than just that, right? Yes, education is like the foundational piece, but you're meeting so many different people. You're learning life skills. You're acquiring a lot of things that you wouldn't learn unless you actually experience it, right?
That's true.
There's so many times where I've had conversations with students where I'm like, you know what, a few years from now, we're going to check back in and talking and be like, you know what, that's what you were talking about back then, right? Because there are just some things that you have to experience for yourself to be able to relate. But I do think it's important. Yes, college is not for everyone per se, but I do think I'm going to push back a little bit as the seasoned college counselor that I am. I think a lot of students who make that point don't necessarily have a full understanding of all the benefits of college, aside from just going to study and learn something so that they can get a better job. And I think if we expand their point of view as to how well-rounded college can make you as a person, because let's be honest, there's so many students who have acquired degrees and they're not even practicing in their field of study. But the skills they learn, right? The people that they've met, the experiences that they have, they've taken that in turn and they've been able to live fulfilling, very happy lives and be successful. So there are so many other benefits, even if it's some college, right? And I think, again, there's just this tunnel vision. So, we really want to expand that vision and bring to the forefront, to the attention of our students, parents, families, right? What these opportunities look like and how they can benefit them. And it's important too to talk to them, right? And to listen more. Like, well, tell me, what do you think college is about? What does that look like for you, right? I think it's understanding their point of view so that we can inform them accordingly and just expand them to new and different things so they can make informed decisions for themselves. We're not necessarily telling them, but here's how life could be better, right? Here are some opportunities for you. And I do think, right, if students realize or represented with the fact, it pretty much is a fact, okay, Farajii, that there is so much free money out there, that would be a very motivating factor to get them to go. So again, it's just trying to get that out in front of the community. Something Shelley said a little while ago about how in schools, it's hard to get that information out because a lot of the counselors are inundated with other responsibilities. I know, like when I was working in public schools, like I'm always proctoring exams. I would literally have a sign on my door like, I'm not available today. Come back during this time because, I have to do other responsibilities. I'm just the go-to who's available, right? So it's important to have these other organizations. And again, now we have social media to kind of help spread the word like wildfire as to what's available for our students. So I really, really strongly believe that if we can just expand minds more often, present them with the opportunities, even if they don't go right away, they would go eventually. And especially in this day and time, I'm just going to go out and say it and be honest. I don't know what you're going to do. as far as if you don't have any type of post-secondary education. You need to have something so that you can have some security and live at least a comfortable life and not be, drugged down and struggling, right? And I think we need to just start exposing students like, here are incentives. You don't have to carry this burden on your own as far as going to school and getting it paid for. And I think the more we can educate, we'll see that number increase. And hopefully retention too, we'll see higher college graduation rates, because it's one thing, we got to get them there, but then we also want to make sure that they follow through.
There it is. Look, we got about 30 seconds, Shetley, and I want to give you an opportunity to put your the website out there and make sure that people can connect with you. How can folks connect with you to learn about these opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Please follow us on social media. There's so many ways that you can help. For anybody listening, there's a way where you can sponsor a student so that they can be in the program. You can donate so that we can have supplies in the center to support the community. You can start a scholarship on your own. We'll help you. We have an administrative program that'll help you create a scholarship program to support a student that wants to continue their education. I mean, there's so many ways. We have the book. You can purchase the book and donate it to a classroom. It's all about inspiration, bringing back hope in continuing education. I want to leave with this. Oh, and I didn't say the website, scholarshipplug.com. Do everything Scholarship Plug. You should find us. But I want to end with this, and this is very important. Do not judge a student's, although these are the indicators that are in place for admissions, but the student that doesn't perform in high school, that doesn't mean they won't perform in college. And I'm telling you that from first-hand experience. Somebody told them no. Someone told them that they can't. But once they get to the person, like our team here or anyone that says, excuse me, you can. Who told you you couldn't? You see a totally different student in college.
Right.
Okay? And I've seen it, and I believe it, and I know it. So parents, do not give up on your children. Educators, don't you dare tell any student that they cannot make it, because I know for a fact that they can. They need the right support behind them.
There it is. Shetley, I appreciate you so much for the great work that you're doing. Folks, the website is thescholarshiplug.com, thescholarshiplug.com. And you can find all of the latest information about scholarships and other opportunities for the students that are in your life. And this is a perfect opportunity, a perfect way for you to get young people to thinking about their future. So Shetley, I thank you so much for the great work that you're doing. And we would love to reconnect with you as you're doing other things and as other initiatives come up. Make sure you think about us here on The Culture, and we will certainly bring you back on. All right, folks, we got to take thank you. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, final thoughts with me and Corinna. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We got a final few moments left, and let me bring my sister Corinna Denise back into the frame. Corinna, that was an awesome conversation with Shetley. I think a lot of people will kind of been wondering, how to kind of navigate what the landscape looks like, considering all the other stuff here. So I just want to thank you for inviting Shetley to the show. Yeah. I mean, that was really very cool. And so, I'm looking forward to kind of having like more conversations like this. But, when I think about the whole scholarship thing, and especially talking to students, it's amazing. It's amazing to see that, there are so many opportunities. And I remember I couldn't bring this up in the conversation, but, I'm wondering how we make sure that we get not just parents connected, but really get students to see the benefit of this thing, man. It's so important. It's so important. Like, my dad was supportive, but he didn't go to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college and to complete college. So, you know what I mean?
You know what, Farajii, to your point, I mean, I was a first generation college student myself, but to be honest, especially as a college counselor, even though, we went to college, so we have that basic experience, things are constantly changing. So it's like continuing education for us too, right? Where we have to be on the up on ups as far as things that are changing with admissions. Like, even look at the recent ruling, right, by SCOTUS with affirmative action, like, counseling students in that matter, like, what's that going to look like then? So things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
But I think it's just sometimes it's even having that come to Jesus conversation. I'm just thinking of a moment right now where one of my students, she literally was just like, you know what, I don't think I want to go. I don't want to do this. And we all, myself, the students, were like on the board writing down, okay, how much you plan to make an hour? $10 an hour. You plan to live on your own because you live in New York. You want to live with your mom and your dad forever because it's not happening. You're not going to find an apartment like that. Right? And really breaking down all the bills, right? Like,
wait a minute, hey, Corinna, that reminds me of the Cosby Show when he talked to Theo about life, and he talked about bologna sandwiches.
Yes, he did, and he's like, you plan to have a girlfriend, and he takes. One
of my favorite episodes. He took all the money. Like, you plan to have a girlfriend? Thank you. That's my dad.
So I think that's expanding the mind, right? Like, okay, well, let's see. If you're good with staying at home with mom and dad for the rest of your life, and I don't know how much longer they will allow you to be there, they might make you pay some rent too, right? Because you've exceeded.
But see, you know what's interesting? And we talked about this, and when we had that conversation, I think either yesterday or the day before, when we said that Black women in particular, Black women and girls represent the highest number or the highest segment of people in underpaid and low income jobs. Mm-hmm. Now, on the one side, we know that Black women, a lot of sisters be like, oh, we killing it. We killing the industry. We killing it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to college more. More of us are going to college. More of us are in. But then the other side of that conversation is Black women are most underpaid. You're still in jobs that don't earn that much. In terms of opportunities, you're not being promoted as well, and there are like all these different dynamics that are at play right now. And I think at the root of it all is that if you don't have a college, if you don't have access to getting further training, certificate, or some specialized training, or you just going to like a 4-year university, and you bring it. I love how you say it. It's like, you can't even get through this world. Like, a college degree back in the day meant everything. Now it's
like a bachelor's degree too.
It's like
a high school diploma. The bachelor's
a high school diploma. You're like,
almost.
I went to college, and people looking at you like, so what? Big deal.
And something that concerns me too. We are in an age right now where we see a lot of young people now. They're doing like the content creators, influencer, and things like that. I really hope that they're planning ahead for the future, because there's going to be some back and forth, right? Like when your actual life is your job, what do you do when you're not on that day and you don't feel like being in front of the camera, right? But you have to do it. So it's like you want to make sure you're planning ahead. Like it's not something you're going to want to do forever. So, again, I think it's just expanding minds. And one more thing real quickly too. We got to our families, right? And our parents. In all transparency, like my parents are not rich, okay? I am first gen, but they wanted me to go to college and they saved for me. And I know that's not always possible for everyone, but it's not impossible either. And I think we have to start educating on what that looks like as far as like the different college saving plans. And even if your child decides to do something else, what the alternatives are that they can actually do with those funds later on. So there are so many avenues, but again, I think it's just so much of just not knowing, and then not even knowing the right questions to ask or even how to start the process. So that's where we gotta, get that disconnect together and bring it all back.
There it is. That's why we got sisters like you on the show, Corinna,
and
to help us to connect the dots.
Scholarship plug, get paid to go to college.
Hey, yo, the only reason I'm not laughing right now because I don't have a shirt.
We will send you a shirt. I will make sure you get a shirt. I
want to have a shirt. I want to rock the scholarship plug. Corinna Denise, there we go.
Thank you, Keenan.
Corinna Denise, always a pleasure.
Website, please. Scholarship plug, tell your family, friends, guys, money to go to school.
There it is. Corinna Denise checking in, online culture crew member. Come on, Kenny, you gotta help me out here, man. There we go. There we go. Yes. I appreciate you, Corinna. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. God willing, we will reconnect with you next week.
Thank you. You too, Farajii. Peace, crew.
Peace. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. I want to thank my production team, Shannon, Joel, my man, King Keenan, for making me look and sound so good. Thank you. I want to thank all of you, my culture crew, the new culture crew members, those who joined the conversation today. Thank you, folks. Make sure you go to blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, download the app for free. But we are looking for your financial donations to continue to support us here at Black Star Network. Your donations matter the most. It is our way for us to continue this movement that we have embarked upon, which is to make sure we bring in relevant and culturally diverse conversations straight to you with no chaser, just having the conversation with you. So blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms as well. All right, that's going to do it for me. I would love to connect with you on social media as well. So find me on Instagram, The Real Farajii. I need some new followers. I need some new folks to connect with me. I get thousands of views every day from this platform, but guess what? I don't see it in my social because I want to branch out. So your support means a lot to me. So make sure y'all go to my Instagram page and also my Twitter page at The Real Farajii. All right, folks, stay tuned. Up next is the role of RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Peace.